and welcome to Hey Eintracht Frankfurt, the Bundesliga podcast, your place to find everything in the English language covering Eintracht Frankfurt. I am your host, Brian and KC, and doing the show a little differently because it's a special series that we're coming out called The Opponents. Eintracht faces 17 teams in this Bundesliga season, the 25-26. So we thought we'd head down memory lane for each and every single one of the opposition that we have faced in terms of what kind of historic matches Eintracht has had in our histories, whether it be way back in days yonder, as this one sort of goes, or, the one that was just last year that might have earned Eintracht Frankfurt a Champions League place. So, Eintracht Frankfurt match day 1, it will be at the Waldstadion against none other than the team on the visor. It is Werder Bremen. And we thought we'd bring back, after a little bit of a hiatus, Nik Wildhagen from Talking Foosball to talk about Eintracht and Werder Bremen. Nick, how are you doing? And will your local team win the Norwegian Football Championship this season?
I'm not doing too badly, actually. You know what? I'm still thinking that Bodø/Glimt might clinch this one. I mean, they are basically turning themselves into the Bayern Munich of Norwegian football with all their European money, and it's actually quite hard to match for any sort of opposition in Norway right about now. But I have to say that Viking Stavanger have made this season more exciting than I expected it to be, and all credit to them for doing just that.
Yeah, this is it's quite an interesting time for Norwegian football, to say the least, not to say anything about the Norwegian national team, who's got some pretty good, interesting players, and we'll see what happens there. But we're deviating from Eintracht Frankfurt and Werder Bremen. This match comes from the 1991-92 season, match day 37. Yes, I said 37. Eintracht's home finale versus Werder Bremen. Nick, can you tell us why you, the Bundesliga historian, why this season of the Bundesliga was so interesting from a Bundesliga standpoint, not talking about Eintracht or Werder Bremen?
Well, Germany and East Germany were reunited, which then forced the DFB to do something about the size of the leagues, basically the Bundesliga, the Bundesliga 2, and it meant that all the East German teams had to be integrated into the DFB system, which in turn then meant that the Bundesliga had to be expanded to 20 teams. So obviously the league is back to 18 teams now. So the plan was to get those East German teams into the league and then have more teams being relegated than promoted. And that happened, and then the league size was reduced once again. But that season, it was 20 teams in that league, and we even had some great sides in there that most people wouldn't expect to find in the Bundesliga. Like Stuttgarter Kickers, for instance, was part of that. Wattenscheid was part of that Bundesliga. Yes, indeed. As for Werder Bremen, it wasn't a particularly brilliant season for them. I think they finished around 8th, 9th or something.
Upper top half. Respectable, considering that was at that point, and this is key, that point in the Bundesliga era, 2 points for a victory, 1 point for a draw, not the 3 points that we currently have.
No, I mean, that came just 2 or 3 years later, I think, or maybe even 4. I think it was the 95, 96 season or 96, 97 season when the 3-point rule was introduced. But yeah, I mean, for Werder Bremen, it was not a particularly brilliant season, but for the league as a whole, it was discovering that East German football, what they had on offer. It produced a lot of sort of this particular season produced a very sort of great finish to the season, which is still remembered in all 3 cities where that finish, meant the world to the local side. I mean, Dortmund, under a young Ottmar Hitzfeld, sort of had found a renewed
might have heard of him.
A renewed sense of vigor, and almost clinched the championship title, as they ended up, I think, on 52 points, like the eventual champions VfB Stuttgart. And then there was Eintracht Frankfurt, who actually played the best football, or probably the best season, the best football throughout which they had played in the entire Bundesliga history up until that point. Um, and that they should have. I mean, and the reason why we talk about this match is they should have clinched it in this match. They so should have clinched it, because giving you a little bit of background here, Werder Bremen, before going into that match, they had come of a Cup Winners' Cup final.
And I wonder how you guys got in that Cup Winners' Cup final. Was it a certain Pokal semifinal in 90-91 season?
Yep.
Cup final versus, who could it possibly be? Oh, it's Eintracht Frankfurt. A 2-2 draw in the Waldstadion meant that it went to a replay. Yes, folks, the Pokal had replays back in the day. It went to then the Weserstadion for a bonkers 5-3 win for Werder Bremen, who then went on to lift 6-3 as the final went. And I think you beat Cone in the final.
Yep, and that was actually that went to penalties. So it was kind of a very sort of insane Pokal campaign that got Werder Bremen into the Pokal into the Cup Winners' Cup competition. In that competition, Werder Bremen actually did fairly well. Their road to the final. They started off with a against Bacau from Romania, which they won the away leg of that match 6-0 and the home leg 5-0.
Seen by two men and a dog from the attendance figures I saw. And some of those matches were back in the day.
That was the first round of the Cup Winners' Cup final. I mean, who cared? And then they went on to Ferencváros in another East European club. This one is from Hungary. Won against them 3-2 at home and 1-0 away. Galatasaray and
finally getting to someone we've heard of.
Club Brugge were defeated in the quarter and the semi-finals, both with an aggregate score of 2-1, and that meant that they actually went to the Cup Winners' Cup final against Monaco, which was held in the old Estadio de Luz, which had an attendance of 16,000 people. But what was sort of
could only 16,000? Hold on, 16,000 people for a cup final, and you're playing this in Portugal in May. No offense to those who live in the free state of Bremen, but I would have wanted to get out of the raininess and the cold of Portugal rather than watch it on the telly.
I mean, it's nice on a May day in Bremen on the river on the riverbank of the Weser, but I would tend to agree. But I think if Werder went into a final of any sort of significance these days, I think it would be quite a different story. But hey, that's how things were back then. And what's funny about this final is it's sort of like we sort of remember Otto Rehhagel winning the European Championship with Greece, and
yes.
The thing was that he was sort of like described as this sort of dinosaur, this fossil of a coach who believed in playing with a sweeper or a libero as the Germans would call it, just playing completely destructive football. Well, the thing is, he was precisely the same sort of character at Werder Bremen in terms of that. His sort of like mantra at Werder was that we have to keep a clean sheet, or as he would put it in German, die Null muss stehen. There has to be a 0 on the scoring board for the opponent, if you translate that somewhat loosely. And what's funny about this is on the other end, on the other side, you met an AS Monaco side, which was coached by none other than a very young Arsene Wenger, who is known for sort of like a slightly sort of different approach to football. And it's actually quite kind of funny to see the starting lineups from back then, because I went over them for doing research coming onto the show, and Werder Bremen was actually playing in that with Rune Bratzett, the Norwegian legend, as a as a sweeper, and then you had Uli Borowka as one of the central defenders who, had the nickname the Axe, and that might tell you a thing or two about, his tackling skills. And it's sort of like you have sort of like this system set up with players like Borowka, who's known as the Axe, and you have Dieter Eils, who's just running, and sort of like a very at that point in his career, he was more of a destructive player than sort of like an elegant, creating midfielder. I mean, would probably be a bit of a stretch to call him elegant or creative. But I mean, he got a little bit better over the years in terms of that. And yeah, you had a guy like Mirko Votava, and up front you had Rufer and Allos, and those are the guys who basically got the goals for Werder. And on the other hand side, you had like this very cultured side with George Weah,
Ever heard of him?
a young Emmanuel Petit, and on the bench you had Yuri Djorkaeff, and you had Lilian Thuram, and you had like all these French cultured footballers.
Names.
And yeah, Werder won it rather surprisingly.
Yeah, Werder Bremen, a 2-0 victory over Monaco, and not gonna lie, Werder Bremen still yet to date one of, I believe, 2 European Cup finals, the other being the 2009 UEFA Cup final versus Shakhtar Donetsk. Unless I'm off and I'm missing another one. Werder Bremen's only European silverware to date, correct?
That's correct.
So, for those guys, they had to have been so excited to have brought another trophy back to Visa side.
Yeah,
I remember what Eintracht Frankfurt was like when the players came back after winning the Europa Pokal in 22, and those guys didn't look steady on the legs. And yet, 3 days later, they were having to take the pitch on a nice sunny day in Frankfurt against Eintracht Frankfurt, a team ready to win the title. And Nick, what happened from the Werder Bremen side?
I mean, these guys have been on a massive bender, basically, as Uli Borowka described it in this book. Uli Borowka, just writes that he's still to this day befuddled by what happened in this match, because none of these guys would have passed the drink driving test, to say the least, even by the standards of the 90s, which were slightly less strict than they are these days. So it's sort of like it sort of like felt like Eintracht were a doomed side on this day, because Werder Bremen basically just came in there and the sort of attitude by the players was that it was like, look, we've got nothing to play for. We're just so hopelessly mid-table. There's nothing left to play for. We've already qualified as defenders of the Cup Winners' Cup for a European competition the following season. We've nothing left to play for here. And we're all pretty much hungover / still drunk.
Why wouldn't they be?
Yeah, why wouldn't they be? I mean, they've nothing left to play for. And they were just walking out onto the Waldstadion thinking, well, let's just get done with those 60, 90 minutes of football, and 9
players, Nick. 9 players from the starting lineup versus Monaco were on the pitch, the starting lineup for Werder Bremen. One would think that those guys, you breathed on one of the other Eintracht players, they would just keel over because of the the drunkenness of the players.
Yeah, but I mean, it's sort of like, what's even funny is the fact that I think Eintracht actually took the lead in this match.
Yeah, in the 20th minute, an Uwe Bain cross over to Andy Muller, who put in his 12th goal of the season, gave Eintracht a 1-0 lead, and you would think, hey, 20 minutes in, these guys are still vibing off of their cup win. You think it would be dead and buried. So count to the 77th minute. What happens is a certain man out on the right, Manfred Bockenfeld, decided to play a ball to none other than the big Kiwi himself, Winton Rufer.
Winton Rufer, my all-time favorite player in Werder Bremen's history. Yeah, had at home, 5th goal of the season.
His lowest goal scoring tally until his final season with Werder Bremen before he left the Visa side, I should point out. So,
yep. And
saved it for the cups. Saved it for the cup.
I mean, what's funny? I mean, what's even funnier is that it took only 2 minutes, and suddenly the same Winton Rufer just put in another cross into the Eintracht box, and there was a certain Klaus Allofs who just had at home the 2-1, lead for Werder Bremen, which was absolutely insane because, Eintracht had everything to play for, and after that 1-0 goal, you would have expected Werder Bremen to fold over like a sheep hooker on Christmas Eve, but they didn't. They didn't, and I mean, the fact that Eintracht didn't manage to kill Werder Bremen off until the 77th minute and allow them into that match is still a mystery and still scandalous to this day.
It's so depressing because if you look at the way that the standings were, so Eintracht only got the draw from here. So as the match ended, sorry folks to ruin that a few moments ahead, Eintracht got a goal back. Anthony Yeboah got his 15th goal of the season from a Norwegian who headed the ball down, and Yeboah just kind of dribbled through a pair of Werder Bremen defenders, Johan Andersen, Norwegian international, to get it level on the 82nd minute. But you're right. Eintracht winning this match would have meant that they entered the match today 50 points for Stuttgart, 50 points for bembelboi. And going on the final match day to Rostock, instead of having 50 points, you have 51 points, knowing that via goal difference, you will be Deutsche Meister if you don't lose to Rostock, which put then the undue attention on the Rostock match, and everyone knows how that went down. 2-1 loss to an already relegated Rostock, Rostock being the East German champions from the season before, but the top two teams from the East got entered into the Bundesliga, but this is just a match of what could have been, and Werder Bremen just scratching their heads and wondering, hey, that works. One of the things that makes me wonder is, Nick, Uwe Bindewald of Eintracht Frankfurt was out this match. He was back in the lineup. He was out injured for this match, but he had played in 36 of the 38 matches. He had played in 35 of the 37 matches to date ahead of the Werder Bremen match. So, lockstep in on the back line with Binz and Roth. That is it possible that Eintracht Frankfurt changing the formation up back to a 3-5-2 after playing in what had been in the previous 3 matches, which were all victories, they had played in a 3-4-1-2, scoring 8 goals in those 3 matches, and also having a draw, 2 draws against Stuttgart and bembelboi in the previous 2 matches. Ahead of that was Stepi Dragoslav Stepanovic. Did he overthink this match? And that is why the Eintracht came away with a 2-2 draw, knowing that, hey, we have to win on the final match day to win the Deutsche Meister, and, possibly ruining, to date, the best opportunity for Eintracht to have won the Deutsche Meister in the Bundesliga era.
I mean, you basically have to play the players you've got on hand, haven't you? I mean, Bindewald was obviously out with an injury, if memory serves. So but at the end of the day, I mean, the scandal here really is that a side which was filled with talent, it was one of the most talented Eintracht sides until this date in history. But despite all that talent, they couldn't get past the side which was more drunk than any sort of Sunday league side on any given Sunday morning.
Yeah, that's true. It's
Um,
a it's a shame that Eintracht Frankfurt threw away this unique opportunity because subsequently, the 90s were still a good era for the Eintracht, but third place would be the best finish that Eintracht would have in the Bundesliga era, all the way up even to the 24-25 season, qualifying for the Champions League. So at that time, I think that was the first season of the Champions League. So the expanded European Cup format, Eintracht Frankfurt missed out on. They eventually played in the UEFA Cup, made it all the way to the quarterfinals versus Juventus next season. Just was not able to get over the hump, and you always got to wonder, is like, hey, what could have been? What could have been? And boy, howdy, was it a match that could have changed Eintracht Frankfurt history forever. But you know what? It is in the past, and now we have match day 1 of the Bundesliga season to look forward to. Nick, let's have a prediction from you for Eintracht Werder Bremen for the season. Where do you think Eintracht finishes, and where do you think Werder Bremen finishes in 25-26 to go to modern time?
I think Werder Bremen is going to finish in the bottom 6, and yeah, I'm that pessimistic actually. Nah, but I mean the run up and then the to the season has been terrible. There's not really any sort of striker who can tuck away the goals. I mean, Werder have been trying to sign Andre Silva from RB Leipzig, and that he didn't really work out the first time around at Werder Bremen. But I don't know why they are keen on bringing him back. I mean, Horst Steffen, the new Werder coach, obviously sees something in him, which
he sees what Adi Hütter saw in him. That's all I can come up with.
Maybe he does, but I mean, he's 29 and he hasn't had a sort of like really sort of above average season for several years now. But be that as that may, I mean, right now he hasn't arrived yet as we speak, and Die Stube reports now that negotiations are difficult between Werder and Leipzig, and it looks like them are about to break down over the fact that the two sides cannot sort of agree on who is going to pay for most of the economic compensation that Andre Silva wants for leaving RB Leipzig, where he's on a €7 million a year contract and signing a 1.5 to €2 million a year contract at Werder Bremen. I mean, he wants some of that difference, and the clubs don't necessarily agree upon who's going to foot that bill.
Gosh.
And add to that Dux is gone. Dux didn't really seem like a Horst Steffen player, anyways. But I mean, he was a very sort of reliable provider of assists and goals, and he's gone. And right now, Berg is gone as well. So I mean, up front, it's not looking good. Not looking good. Nimja hasn't sort of like had a good spell of late. Kick it top. He's certainly talented, but how talented is he? Like above average? Is he good enough for the Bundesliga, or might he just be a top-notch Bundesliga 2 player? Who knows? In midfield, I do sort of like I think like guys like Jens Steg and a couple of other guys really overperformed last season, and in defense, I'm Werder basically needs another right back, hey presto, and that doesn't seem to be happening. That doesn't seem to be on the cards right about now.
Well, you can always have Elias Baum on loan, I think, or Buta. I think both of those guys out on the right could do a job for you guys. But hey, okay.
Right now they're trying to sign Isak Schmidt from Leeds United, and that is sort of difficult because Daniel Farke doesn't want him to leave until he's got a replacement in the squad for him. So it's sort of difficult, and add to that Michael Cetra might be on his way out to Eintracht Frankfurt. Yes, there you go.
Less said about that transfer, the better. But Eintracht Frankfurt, though, and Werder Bremen seems like they're going to be on opposite sides of the table. Where do you think that the Eintracht finishes this season?
Top 6. I think it's somewhere between 4th and 6th. I mean,
I agree.
Uh,
I will preface this as saying I don't know where Leipzig is going to finish. Either they get back to their old Leipzig ways and their top four side, or they totally swing and miss. I don't know about Leverkusen. The only thing that I could tell you is the top two of the top four. I can tell you a team that can finish second through fourth is going to be BVB, and the team who's going to be at the top is going to be Bayern, and that's kind of about it. And I think that Eintracht Frankfurt has, as long as they find something for the defense side, we're qualifying for Europe for next season. That's all that we can count on.
yeah, and I think Eintracht is are going to be favorites in that match against Werder Bremen, and I would be surprised if Werder took anything away from that match, basically. Really, if I'm being honest. As I said, the run up, the season prep, the test matches have looked awful for Werder Bremen.
The Pokal is next, and an early exit Lumen.
It's actually tomorrow as we speak. And that is against Arminia Bielefeld, the side that kicked Werder Bremen out of the cup in the quarterfinals last season.
Boy.
That was sort of like a historic chance for Werder Bremen to sort of get back into a semi-final of the DFB Pokal, and that was blown. So yeah, I'm not too positive in my outlook of Werder Bremen right about now, but I think what might save them is just the fact that with Heidenheim, HSV,
St. Pauli.
That there are a few sides down there that might just be worse than them, but that's about the sort of like most positive outlook that I can sort of spin out of what I've observed on the transfer market and on the pitch so far.
Well, when it comes to Werder Bremen and their relegation survival, you don't have to outrun the lion; you just have to outrun the other guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's yeah. I mean, it's sort of like our two sides have actually fought relegation at the same time, and that came
let's
down.
not talk about that one.
Came down to a match in the Waldstadion, which was decided with a very, very late goal. Yeah. So I mean, it's sort of like yeah, but I mean that sort of was a turning point for Eintracht in the club's history, and I mean, even though Werder Bremen have managed to like get back to the Bundesliga, have nothing to do with relegation, and in the 3 years back they've gotten close to Europe twice. I don't think that the sort of players that have arrived and the sort of team that has been built is going to sustain the sort of form that they've shown the last couple of seasons. And I think last season was an overperformance. The previous season was sort of like very, very close, and a lot of teams finished around the same spot in the Bundesliga, which ultimately allowed Heidenheim to slide into Europe, and Werder Bremen to barely miss out on it. And I mean, Werder Bremen almost got into Europe on 42 points. Getting into Europe is on 42 points is insanity. I mean, they say you have to collect 40 points not to get relegated. Getting into Europe on 42 points is just madness. But Heidenheim did it, hey. But yeah, I mean, yeah. So I think what Eintracht have really done is that they've A, become very, very good at spotting talent, and B, selling it at a profit, and C, replacing it. And I mean, when I look at the squad right about now, I think it's even if you don't do anything at this point, I still think you're guaranteed a top 6 finish.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to 25-26. Nick, it's always fun to have you on to talk about the Bundesliga. We have to do it again, and perhaps we can just talk about the Bundesliga as a whole and not focus on one team that may be good and one team that may be bad. We can focus on all of the fun stuff that goes around, because if you get into the Aufstieg stuff, boy, it's all sorts of fun down there. Where can we find you in the social media landscape of the world, and where can we find your works?
Yeah, I mean, you can just type in Talking Football into Spotify.
Anything.
I don't know how we're going to go get back this season. All I know is that we're going to be a little less regular going forward. You can find me on Blue Sky, Nik.Wildhagen at bsky.social whatever the fuck. And
Yes,
I'm not really active on there right about now, but I do check my messages. So if you want to get in touch and say hey, or just have a question, or just want to tell me to my face that I do suck or whatever, yeah, send me a message there. I'll read them, and mostly I reply.
there you go. And that wraps up this Eintracht Werder Bremen historic match moment. Thanks to Nik for joining on the show. And hopefully you guys liked it, and look forward to episodes 2 through 16 for you. So until next time, cheers!
Eintracht Frankfurt, schalalalalalala. Eintracht Frankfurt, schalalalalalala.